Hey, what's up, guys? Gonna be doing a Blu-ray review and movie review of The Gate. This is a cult classic horror film that came out in 1987, and it's a childhood favorite of mine. And this film really looks good on Blu-ray, on high definition. The picture and sound quality is definitely an improvement from the DVD that I own of this film and the VHS back in the day. Definitely, the picture definitely pops in certain scenes I'd never noticed before. Has a nice, clear picture. And to tell you a little bit about the film itself, it's basically about demons. It's about these two kids by the name of Glenn and Terry, who are best friends. And they discover this rock in Glenn's backyard. There's like a hole in his backyard from a tree that fell down, and they think they're rich. There's like jewels inside the rock. So they dig up a bigger hole in Glenn's backyard, and what they do is unleash hell on earth. Basically, demons are unleashed in their world, and they play on their fears. And Glenn, he has abandonment issues, with his sister and his parents, and it's kind of like a metaphor. Demons, arise from anger. And Terry, his mom, passed away, and Terry makes up stories like, a workman, was sealed up in Glenn's wall, and Terry says all the stuff to Glenn, and Glenn believes anything Terry says, and it actually really happens because they're playing on their fears. So an actual workman comes out of their wall, and he's kind of zombie-ish looking, and he's coming after them, And these little demons, they call them minions, are going after them, and these little demons, these minions, they serve this demon lord, which you see at the end of the picture, which is really cool. But it's not CGI, it's stop motion animation, and it looks really cool. This is one of those films they took their time on with the storyline. You care about the characters. The special effects are done well for this time period. And it's really a good film. One of the things I really love about this film is its music score. It has a really good soundtrack, has a certain mood to it, and kind of soothingness about it, but also kind of scary at the same time. It definitely sets up the mood for the film, has a certain atmosphere about it. And Stephen Dorff plays the lead character, Glenn. And if you don't know who Stephen Dorff is, he was the lead vampire in the film Blade with Wesley Snipes. That's what Stephen Dorff is best known for, is Blade. But in The Gates, he plays a little boy, in his first starring role. And he does a pretty good job along with the other kids, because pretty much this is kids you're pretty much seeing in the film. You see the two parents, but very briefly, it's mostly kids in this film and teenagers. So it's one of those films that it's mainly about kids fighting demons and finding ways to close the gates. And it was pretty cool. Terry's got this record album, and it tells you how to unleash, the demons, and how to, open the gate and how to close the gate as well. And you can play the record backwards, and it's got this this fold out of all these images of Satanism and all kinds of stuff like that. It's interesting drawings. But yeah, there was plans to make a remake of this film, and I guess it got canceled. And honestly, I think that's for the best, because this film doesn't need to be remade. But apparently the guy that does the artwork for Aliens, H.R. Giger, which sadly passed away, he was involved in the design of the new demons that they were creating. I think it's online somewhere. You could probably find it, but I don't know if they're going to continue doing that. It sounds like it's a canceled project, but I was kind of curious, but I'm not sure. They made a sequel to this film. It's not as good as the original, but I enjoy the sequel for what it is. But The Gate is a classic. I compare this to films like Steven Spielberg, kind of like Poltergeist in a way. It kind of reminds me of that film. I would say it's up there with films like Poltergeist. Because The Gate is kind of like Steven Spielberg meets demons. That's what I would say. And people have compared this to Stranger Things, which this came out before Stranger Things. So if anything, Stranger Things is kind of like borrowing ideas from The Gate. A lot of films, like The Gate, But, yeah, it's a pretty innocent film. And what I like about it is that you got these characters that die in the film. But, spoiler, at the end, everyone comes back. It's one of those rare horror films that, characters get killed off and they come back at the end of the film. Even the dog that gets killed comes back. I mean, when does that ever happen in a horror film? Not too often. You don't see it that often. But yeah, it's kind of like Goosebumps in a way, I guess you would call it. This one's got a little bit more edge to it than Goosebumps, I would think. It's a little more scarier. It scared me when I was a kid. And yeah, they pushed the limits of how far they could go with PG-13 with this film, definitely. But if you enjoy films like Poltergeist or, Stranger Things or Goosebumps or anything kind of like that, I think you'll enjoy this film, because it's definitely right up there, with those films and the television series, Stranger Things. But yeah, I mean, if you enjoy that type of stuff, this is definitely a film I would recommend to go check out. It definitely has a cult following. It should be more popular. I mean, it did well in the box office, but it was one of those films that, it's not mainstream, I guess, like Poltergeist, but it's definitely a film I've always enjoyed. It's definitely in my top 10 favorite horror films of all time. But, yeah, definitely worth checking out. And this Blu-ray is pretty cool. It has a lot of special features in this damn thing. Lots of interviews with the director and people that made the film. You got, let's see, trailers, behind the scenes. Lots of informative stuff in here. And worth picking up on Blu-ray. I know it's pretty expensive. I know this thing sometimes runs like for $30. I got it for a good deal though. I paid like $15 for it. I got lucky, but if you're into kind of films, kind of like Goosebumps or something like that, kind of like horror film for kids, kind of PG-13, but pushing the limits of PG-13. I think you'll enjoy this one. It's worth giving a shot. And yeah, this is pretty much my review of the film on Blu-ray and the film itself. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this Blu-ray review and movie review of The Gates. And we'll talk to you guys at a later time. All right, take care.